Hello guys, welcome back. So in this today's class, we are going to discuss about the OSI model. The main agenda of this today's class is that what is the use of OSI model, for what purpose that OSI model is developed, then how the real-time device will be communicating one to another by using of this OSI model. Those things we are going to see in the today's lecture. Now before understanding the OSI model, we need to understand the one more thing, that is what we called as the protocols in the computer networking, as we discussed in the previous class, right? So what is the meaning of the protocol? Means a set of rules that defines how your network devices and software should work. Suppose for example, see why we need to implement the rules and regulation for every device in the network. Means suppose for example, if you read this statement, you will understand. For example, we have a computer networking of two different companies. Let it one be Dell company, another one is something Lenovo company, right? So these two companies followed their own rules and regulation for communicating the one device to the another device. So what is the meaning of this one? Means the rules which is framed to design these systems are different, and the rules which is framed for working of this system will be different. Now what will be happen means exactly here, if you want to communicate from this Dell PC to this Dell PC, you can happily communicate, right? So you can happily communicate. Why? Because the rules and regulation or protocol is made common protocol for the all the Dell system. The same way here we have the different rules and regulation which is developed by the Lenovo company, just for example. Now if one Lenovo computer want to communicate with the another Lenovo company computer, they can happily exchange the information or resources. Why? Because they have the obeying the common rules and regulation. That is what we called as the protocol. Now here is question is that, now if something like this, if my Dell computer wants to communicate with the Lenovo computer, will it be possible? It is not possible. The reason is that the rules and regulation will be differ from the rules and regulation of the Lenovo computer. So it means that it cannot able to communicate from the one different manufacturer protocol to another different manufacturer rules and regulation. Now what OSI model will discuss is that, so whatever the protocol, whatever the rules and regulation that you are implementing on your manufacturing devices, we have to follow some set of rules and regulations. If you are able to follow those set of rules and regulation, you can happily communicate one different manufacturer device to the another different manufacturer devices, right? So in globally we need something called as the standardization. The standardization will be given by the OSI model, right? So in today's world, whatever the device we will be having, everything will follow the some protocol, that is nothing but the OSI model, which is given to obey the what are the rules that our network devices and software should work, right? So now we will go to the right OSI model, then we will understand what is the basic of OSI model, then we will see what is the different functions of the OSI model in detailed manner. So OSI means open system interconnection, right? It is a reference model that describes how information from the one computer move through the physical medium to the software application in the another computer. So what is the meaning of this one is, if you want to communicate with one different manufacturer computer to the another different manufacturer computer, so starting from the connection, right? So it is nothing but the physical layer. So here we are going to prepare some application, something like this. You want to contact with from the through Gmail application. At the receiver also you might be having the Gmail application. It means that move through the application will move through the data physical layer medium to the software application, right, in another computer. So OSI consists of how many layers? OSI consists of the 7 layers, and each layer perform the particular network function, right? Now question is that who developed this OSI model? So open system means open standard. It is not proprietary protocol, anyone can use in the networking scenarios. So OSI consists of how many layers? 7 layers, right? So it was developed by whom? ISO, International Organization for Standardization, in the year of the 1984, right? So now here we have the 7 layers, right? So divide the whole task into the 7 smaller and manageable tasks, right? It means that we have the 7 layers. Each layer will perform its own individual tasks. Everything will be performed independently. So now what is the meaning of this 7 layer operation? Means if you implement your network infrastructure or network device, if it is obeying these 7 layers protocols, then you can able to happily communicate from the one different manufacturer vendor to the another different manufacturer vendor, right? So now for example, if you don't understand, you take the postal system, right? So if you want to send the post from one friend to the another friend, now what we have to do, the basic thing is that we need to write the 2 address, right? So if you are not writing the 2 address, what will be happen? This postcard will not be delivered to your destination, right? Why we need to write the 2 address? The reason is that everyone, some people, they have given the standard. So if you obey these standards or rules and regulation, then only you can happily send the postcard from the one person to the another person. The same way here OSI model define in the networking how 2 different communication system or 2 different network manufacturing device will communicate to one to another by using this model. So for that reason we are going to learn the operation of the each and every layer. Now we will see that the operation of the each and every layer. So these are the 7 individual layers. Each layer will perform the different individual tasks, right? So all the tasks will be independent one to another, right? Each layer will be having its own importance when the information is sending from the source machine to the destination machine. Now see that for the first time, if you see that this is very much difficult for us to remember. So what is this layer name, this layer name, this layer name, something like this. So for example, to remember this, we have some shortcut. If you read this statement, you will understand. A python said that nobody drinks Pepsi, right? So this one we can easily remember, right? So what is the meaning of this one? A python said that nobody drinks Pepsi, right? So what is the meaning of A here? The meaning of A here is the application layer. P means it is the presentation layer, not the Python layer. S means it is the session layer. T means transport layer. N means network layer. D means data link layer. P means physical layer. So if you remember this code, you can able to remember the what is the name of the each and every layer. So first point is that we need to understand the what is the name for the each and every layer. Later on we can see that what is the function of the each and every layer, right? So what is the code we need to remember? A python said that nobody drinks Pepsi. Or if you are something like, if you are not South Indian guy, right? So this code also we can use. What is the meaning of this one is a power star, right? So a power star said that nobody drinks Pepsi. Nobody drinks Pepsi, right? So suppose for example my power star is Pawan Kalyan. So for me it is easy to remember, right? So a power star said that nobody drinks Pepsi. What is the meaning of A? Application layer. P means presentation layer. S means session layer, transport layer, network layer, then data link layer, then finally we have the presentation layer, right? So like that we can remember this one. Initial point is that you are going to remember the all the layers. Now we will discuss what is the operation of the each and every layer. So before going to understand the what is the functionality of the each and every individual layer, we have understand the what is the meaning of the protocol, right? Now we'll see the what is the meaning of the encapsulation, right? So if, as I said that if it is first layer is your application layer, then information will be perform some task at the application layer. Once application layer operation is completed, then it will go to the presentation layer, right? Now what is the meaning of this encapsulation? Means some data you are going to prepare at the application layer, right? So the moment when it comes to the presentation layer, right, so along with this data we are going to add some more extra things, right? Later on we will discuss what is the extra thing that we are going to add. So here what is the meaning of encapsulation? Means the process of adding the additional information, right? So this is the additional information in the presentation layer, right? The process of adding the additional information to the existing data is called as the encapsulation process. It means that if you are taking this is your transmitter computer, this is your receiver computer, we will be having the 7 layer operation. Here also we will be having the 7 layer operation. It means that if the data will be prepared by the first layer, then something will be added extra to that data. This is called as the encapsulation. Again here, then one more data will be added here. One more data will be added here. Something like this data will be added. So finally this information will be sent over the physical medium. Then it will be received at the data link layer. Now see that here it will perform the decapsulation operation. So what is the meaning of decapsulation operation? Means once here the data link layer information is received, then I don't require any data link layer information. Once if I receive the network layer information, then I don't require the network layer information. So like that, the moment here when you are coming, right, at the transmitter part, we are going to perform the encapsulation. When it is reaching to the receiver final application, it is going to perform the decapsulation operation, right? So decapsulation means removing the additional information to the existing data is called as the decapsulation. So finally this is the process how your communication can be, right, performed from the one device to the another device. So finally if you are preparing this application data, the finally it reaches to the application data only. These are intermediate things which we don't require. So for that, first we are making the encapsulation, then later on we are making the decapsulation operation. So finally data will be transmitted from the application layer to the application layer, right? I hope you understand. Now we'll start from the application layer, then we'll see that what is the meaning of the each and every layer and what is the function of the each and every layer. So this I'm going to consider as the source, this I'm going to consider as the destination, right? Now what is the first layer? Application layer. We will see the what is the operation of the application layer, right? So if you understand, one important thing is that the user is nothing but we people, we can directly able to access the application layer. It means that we can able to directly access the applications, right? If you see that in real time, what are the different type of application you will be having, right? So we will be having the something, Gmail server is one of the application, right? Then one more is the web server. What is the meaning of web server? Something we have the Google Chrome, right? So Firefox. So these are called as the applications, right? So if you want to send the mail, so directly you can access the Gmail, right? It means that user can directly interact with the application layer, so that whatever the data you want to compose, he can perform that particular operation, right? So see that in application layer interact with the software application. Suppose for example it may be web browser, something like Chrome, Firefox, Brave browser or whatever it may be, and the protocol which is used to the HTTP, HTTPS, right? So later on we will see what is the requirement of this HTTP or HTTPS, right? So where the user can directly interact with the application layer, nothing but these are the some of the example for the application. You can send the information, so that once data is being prepared at the application layer, it will send to the next layer, where in the source machine, right? Once it is ready, then it is going to send to the receiver machine or destination machine, right? Now see that for example Mr. X want to send the Mr. Y an email. So some X person want to send the email to the Y person. Now what will be happen? The user can directly access the Gmail server, right? Because we can able to access the Gmail application, right? So X composes his message in email application on his laptop and then hits send, right? So once you send the confirmation, then what will be happen? The mail application will process his email message over to the application layer. Now it means that we are accessing the application. The moment we are clicking on the send, now the email message will be sent over to the application layer, now which will pick up the protocol called as the SMTP, right? So now what is the meaning of, every time if I'm going to discuss, I'm going to discuss something called as the protocol, right? Now in application layer, why we need to use the protocol? That is the main doubt here, right? Suppose for example, see that this is my Google Chrome browser, right? So this is my, what is the browser I'm using currently? This is my Google Chrome browser, right? So this is my Chrome browser interface, right? So this is my Chrome browser interface. Now see that here, from here I'm going to type some address, right? So I'm going to type some address. So after that I'm going to send the request from the one machine to the another machine, right? So in the other machine, right, so it may be running with the Chrome browser or Firefox browser. Suppose it is running with the Firefox browser. Now see that the rules and regulations which is developed by the Chrome is different, and rules and regulation which is developed by the Firefox is different. Now see that why we are studying the OSI model? Both party has to agree the same rules and regulation, right? Now see that either if you are using the Chrome browser or if you are using the Firefox browser, we need to obey the some standard rules and regulation. That is what we protocol, right? Suppose the moment if I say something, if I type google.com or something, right? Now see that what is happening if I am typing google.com also. Now see what is happening here. If I'm opening google.com, now see that what is extra thing here, it is adding something HTTPS, right? Now what is the meaning of this one is, if you want to communicate one web browser with the another web browser, right, both party has to obey the some common rules and regulation, those we called as the protocol. In case of web application, we have the protocols. One is called as the HTTP, another one is called as the HTTPS, right? So it means that each has to obey the protocol. If you are typing the cisco.com and if you want to communicate from your browser is Google Chrome browser and the server located at the some Firefox browser. So these two are different, but now what is the required thing is that these two people has to obey the common standard, nothing but the protocols. The protocol, if they use either HTTP or HTTPS, this party also should use the HTTP or HTTPS. Even though they are different manufacturer also, they can happily communicate. So two things are required. One is what is your application, and second thing is that what is the protocol. Remember, in case of the something web browser, we have the protocols. One is HTTP, right? We have the one is HTTP, another one is the HTTPS. HTTP means normal protocol, HTTPS means secure protocol. We will see what is the meaning of HTTP, HTTPS once we are going to discuss the application layer, right? So now part of the application layer is completed. So what user can access the application layer, he can compose the information. So once he press the hit button, then this will be sent over the application layer. Now task of the application layer is completed. In case of web browser, which protocol we need to use, HTTP or HTTPS. In case of Gmail, what is the protocol we are using? Simple mail transfer protocol. By using this protocol, we are going to make the communication. Why SMTP protocol is required? Suppose your application is the Gmail application, client server using the Gmail application, right? So some receiver machine that is using the Yahoo Mail application. Now these are different, right? If you want to communicate this one to this one, what is the thing we have to obey? We need to obey the standard protocol. That protocol name here we called as the SMTP, right? Without protocol or standardization, we cannot able to communicate with the one different to the another different. That what your OSI model will you describe, right? So now application layer is completed. What is the next layer? Presentation layer. Now we will see that the what is the operation of the presentation layer. So in application layer, the user is directly accessing the application so that he can compose some information, right? Now if you observe here, the data which is represented in the application layer is in the application format. It means that whatever the application we are using, based on that application we are going to prepare the data or application format. So it is need to be translated to the different format to send over the network. So what is the meaning of this one? As the user accessing the application layer, he is going to compose some information or data. This can be understood only by the application layer. But in we have the 7 layer, right? So each layer will be performing the independent task, right? So whatever the format here we have at the application layer, it might not be understood by the next layers which is under the application layer. Now here what is the main thing we have to do is, we need to translate this information in terms of the understandable format to the remaining layers in the networking, right? So now who will convert this one format of the data into the another format of the data? So the task of the presentation layer is the performing the translation operation. Translation operation means from one application format to the another application format, which is understood by the remaining layer of the OSI model, right? So what is the duty of the presentation layer? It will perform something called as the translation operation. Translation operation means it will convert application data format into the some other format which can be understood by the remaining layers in the OSI model. Now see that in real time, if you are accessing the application layer, so then we are going to perform something called as the encryption or decryption operation, right? Then one more thing, we are going to perform the compression, right? Something zipping we have, right? Zip unzip something we have, right? Now see that these things will be performed by the presentation layer, right? So encryption and decryption, compression will be performed by the presentation layer. So three duties, the main thing which is performed by the presentation layer. First one is it is performing the translation operation. Translation means converting one format of the information into the another format of the information. So second thing is it is going to perform the encryption as well as the decryption operation. Encryption at the transmitter side, decryption at the receiver side. And third operation, it is going to perform something called as the compression operation. So if size of file is something 2 GB, if you are making the compression, so it can become the 1 GB. So it is easy for us to send the information to the network, right? So instead of sending the 2 GB, right? So these are the duties of the presentation layer. Now what we have done, application layer, data is prepared, then translation, compression, encryption, decryption, everything will be performed by the presentation layer. Now what is the next layer in the OSI model? Session layer, right? Now we will see the what is the operation of the session layer, right? Now the session layer is the responsible for connection establishment, connection management, and connection termination between one application to the another application. It means that, for example, if you want to connect your web server client application to the YouTube application, now first what we have to do is that we need to enable the session, right? Then only we can able to send the information from the one application to the another application. It means that first we need to establish the session, then we need to maintain the session throughout of the communication. Once the information is transmitted from the one web browser application to the another web browser application, then we are going to perform the termination operation. Who will perform all these things? The duty of the session layer is that to perform the session establishment, session maintenance, one more is the session termination. Now if you see that, right, so the duty of the session layer is that it is responsible for opening and closing the communication between two devices, right? As long as there is a communication from this one source application to the destination application, the connection will be still alive. Once operation are completed something, now we need to close the session, right? So now what is the meaning of the session means the time between when the communication is opened and closed, right? When the communication is started and when the communication is closed, the time duration between these two things we called as the session. So this is what we called as the session establishment, session maintenance, and termination. Now one more application of the session layer is that it is going to perform the synchronization operation. So what is the meaning of synchronization means, right? So see that the session layer also synchronize the data transfer with checkpoints. So here what is the point we need to remember is that here we have something called as the checkpoints, right? So for example, see if you want to send the 100 MB file, right, it is being transmitted, the session layer could set a checkpoint for every 5 MB, right? In this case, a disconnect or a crash after 52 MB have been transferred, then the session could be resumed from the last checkpoint, meaning only 50 more bytes of data need to be transferred. Without the checkpoint, the entire transfer would have to be begin again from this crash. So now what is the meaning of this one? What is the meaning of checkpoint? We will see, right? Suppose here what is the meaning of this entire conversation is that I want to send the 100 MB data from the source to the destination, right? Now what I'm going to do is at a time we cannot send, right? So it is going to send the information byte by byte, right? Now what is going to happen means I'm going to check for every checkpoint is something I'm going to fix it. For 5 MB data I'm going to check whether 5 MB is completely transferred or not. If 5 MB is transferred, I'll check okay 5 MB is completed. Next after 5 MB is transferred, I'll check whether 5 MB is transferred or not. Again I'll check 5 MB transferred or not. It means that for each 5 MB data transferred, I am going to enable the checkpoint or checking. Now here what is they are telling? So 50 MB is received, right? It means that 10 into 5, 10 checkpoints are completed. Now at the 52 MB data, due to some unavailability of the communication link or error, whatever it may be, the data is lost. Now question is that do we need to send the 100 MB again, or we need to send the information after 100 MB? Sorry, after 50 MB? The answer is that we can send only remaining 50 MB. Why? Because here for every 5 MB we have enabled the checkpoint. It means that 5 into 10, it means that if you are performing the 10 checks, it can able to find out the 50 MB data is sent, right? Now before going to check one more 5 MB data, what it is going? So if it is 55 MB, it will check the one more checkpoint, right? But meanwhile what is happening? So at the 52 MB, the data is lost, right? It means that it knows that 50 MB data is already transferred, yet in between 50 to 55 the data transfer is lost. That's the reason why again remaining 50 MB we are going to transmit one more time, right? If you are not using the checkpoint, what will be happen? Even if it is going to 99 MB is transferred, If 1 MB is left over, then due to communication error, if we can't able to receive this 1 MB, again we need to retransmit the 100 MB information. But due to these checkpoints, what will be happen? So where we have the last data, only that remaining part we need to send, so that we can escape from the retransmission of the entire data. That is what we called as the synchronization operation, right? The main duty of the session layer is that session establishment, maintenance and termination synchronization, right? So now we have completed the application layer, presentation layer, one more is the session layer. Now we'll see that what is the meaning of this one, right? So these three layers we called as the software layers. Why these three layers we called as the software layers means, here the user directly can interact with the application, right? So he can compose some data, right? That's within itself presentation layer will translate, it will perform encryption, decryption, it will perform compression also. Once it is done, from one application to the another application, synchronization, session management can be done by the session layer. So this is what we generally used to call as the software layer, where no network engineers are required to make the much concentration on the software layers, right? So where we are going to send the data, how we are going to send the data, where that comes, then we have the importance with the network engineer. So these are called as the software layer. The remaining layers we called as the hardware layers, right? Where here networking engineer task will be more. Now if we see that what is the heart of OSI model, transport layer, we will see why transport layer is the heart of the OSI model. Now if we see that, so here by performing these three layers, we have this one is called as the data. Whatever the operation performed by these three layers, that information we called as the data. For this data, if we can able to add some extra information, what we call, that is what we called as the encapsulation operation. If you remove this called as the decapsulation, if you add extra thing to the existing data, this is called as the encapsulation process. So from this point, what you have to understand means, what is the meaning of data means, the data will be prepared by the software layers of application, presentation, session layer. So all three things will prepare the data. Now data is ready. Now we need to send the information through the hardware layers. That is a pending part. Now what is the next layer we need to discuss? Transport layer. We will see what is the functionality of the transport layer. So the transport layer will receive the data from the upper layer, nothing but the session layer, and break the large piece of data into the smaller pieces of information. So that dividing the larger data into the smaller piece of information we called as the segments, right? So this point you have to remember, in which layer segmentation operation will be performed. It is going to perform in the transport layer, right? So why we need to perform the segmentation operation? Why we need to perform the segmentation operation? Suppose for example, let us say whatever the data is prepared at the application, presentation, session layer, we call that is the data, right? Let it be data size is something 5 GB, right? So data size will be 5 GB. Now if you are sending as it is 5 GB from the transmitter to the receiver, if communication is error occur, then again we need to retransmit the entire information, right? Even if it is something 4.99 GB also transmitted, that 0.1 GB left also, we need to again perform the retransmission operation. Then one more important point is that we cannot able to send the bulk information through to the network. So now what we are going to do is, instead of sending the 5 GB file as it is, I am going to divide the data into the smaller parts, right? So later on we will discuss how we are going to collect this all the smaller parts at the receiver end, how we are making at the again same 5 GB file. That is the later thing we are going to discuss, right? Now see that we are going to send the different pieces. The pieces we called as the segmentation operation. In segmentation operation will be performed by the transport layer. Now what will be happen, suppose see that this is a one piece, another piece, something like this, right? So when you are sending the information from the source to the destination, suppose this data is received, this one is received, this one is received, this one is received, this one is received. So something due to the error we cannot able to receive that particular segment. Now what will be happen? Now I don't need to retransmit the all the segments, only whatever the corrupted segment, if we performing the retransmission operation, that is more than sufficient. That is the reason why we are going to make the segmentation. In later classes we are going to see the detail analysis of the segmentation operation, right? So first point to be remember is that who will perform the segmentation? Transport layer. What is the meaning of segmentation? Dividing the larger piece of data into the smaller piece of information is called as the segmentation, right? So see that if any piece of the data is lost, right, then except the last data we can get remaining data segments, right? So no need to retransmit the entire information. As we discussed in the previous, so where the data will be prepared? At the application layer, presentation layer and session layer, right? So this is what we called as the data. Now the information will pass to the transport layer. So along with the data, the transport layer is going to add the some more extra information to transmit the information in the network. This extra information we have, right? This is the original information, right? So what is the meaning of encapsulation operation? The data which is received at the 3 layer plus extra information, it is the layer 4, right? This is the layer 4, layer 3, layer 2, layer 1, layer 5, layer 6, layer 7. The data which extra information adding to the existing information we called as the encapsulation operation, right? Now we will say that what kind of data here will be added, right? So then you will be understanding along with the data what is the extra information is going to be added. As we said that we have the data, right? So second one, so after that we have the encapsulation, right? So what is that? L4 data. So here what is going to do here, the data at the transport layer means it is going to add the source port number as well as the destination port number, right? So whatever the mission we are going to send the information, right? So there will be running the multiple process. Each process will be running with the some port number. That particular port number we are going to assign. So what is the port number of the source mission? What is the port number of the destination mission? So here we are going to attach in the L4 information. That is what we called as the adding the extra information to the original information, right? Now what is the extra information we are going to add? Source port number as well as the destination port number, right? Now if you see that generally the destination port number is configured either by default or manually. For example, when a web application make a request to the web server, it typically use the port number is the 80 because this is the default port assigned to the web application. Many applications have default port is assigned. Now first we will try to understand what is the meaning of port number, then we will understand why do we need to add the source port as well as the destination port, right? Then you will be able to easily understand what is the necessity. So for explaining the what is the use of port addressing mechanism, we will consider some simple scenario. Suppose for example I want to connect it to the cisco.com. So generally what we used to do, right? We used to type only what? Cisco.com only, right? We don't type all these things, right? HTTPS, right? So this is the web application, right? So which I am going to use the Google Chrome, right? So for example server will be somewhere, right? So here we have the server. So from the server we are going to get the information. Let it be that server is running some HTTP, Apache, whatever it may be, web server is running, right? So it is going to give some information when we are going to request. Now see that what is the protocol which is using? Cisco.com means what is the protocol which is using? See that HTTPS means it is using the secure protocol. Why HTTP is required? Because here if you want to communicate with the server, we need to obey the standard rules and regulations. That is what we called as the protocol, right? What is the protocol we need to use? HTTPS. So generally here we used to type only cisco.com, right? But by default it will take the something called as the this one. So first one is something that what is the protocol, right? So if it is secure means we have the HTTPS, something we have the log means it is HTTPS. If you don't have log, then it is the HTTP protocol. Now here we are going to type the domain name or IP address, right? So later on we will see that how we can different from the IP address to the domain name. Once it is done, then we need to specify the port number, right? So what is the meaning of port number here means inside of your destination computer, not only one particular port will work. Suppose for example, this is my system, right? So in my system, I have the something called as the Gmail server. I have something called as the Facebook. I have something called as the WhatsApp. I have something called as the HTTPD web server. Now see that the moment if you are going to inside of this one, either using of the domain name or IP address, right? What is the use of IP address? We see this is source IP address, this is the destination IP address. So what is the use of IP address means which is used to locate the where is your destination device is located, right? So use of IP address is completed, right? We can able to identify the where is our server is located. Now see that inside of the server machine or server computer there are multiple processors running. Out of this, which one you want to connect? Either Gmail or either it may be Facebook or it may be WhatsApp or it may be HTTP web server or it may be some XYZ application, right? Now here question is that we need to connect with the particular process, right? So by using of this domain name or IP address only we can able to identify the destination device. After identification, what is required? We need to find out the what is the particular process that we need to access. If you don't understand this one, for example, suppose I want to meet some particular student in the particular classroom. Let it be something, we have the ECE C section is here, right? So now what is going to do is if you ask someone where is ECE C section, they will be going to tell that the room number is 206 for the ECE C section. Now it means that after identification of the room number, is our outcome is completed? No, right? Now what is our requirement? So we need to identify the particular student. It means that so after identification of the room number 206, your task is not completed. Inside of this 206 room number, there is 60 students. Each student will be having the different name or hall ticket number, right? So this different name or hall ticket number we called as the port numbers. Now out of the 60 students whom you want to meet, particular student, right? So what is the name of student? Some X. For X, Y, Z, whatever it may be, it will be assigning the unique address, that is what we called as the port number, right? So if you don't know port number, by using IP address only you can go inside of the 206, but you cannot able to find out who is required student for you, right? Here communication also, the protocol is to define, right, whether you can able to communicate with the server application or not. If server also obeying the HTTPS, you can happily communicate. Now here we can enter the website address. In generally we used to enter the IP address, but we can't remember the IP address. So we have some translation procedure. So IP to the domain name, later on we can see that. So here we are entering the IP address. Once IP address is completed, it will take you to the server. So in that server, there are multiple processors, multiple applications are running. Out of this application, which you want to find out, each application will be running with the different process, right? Each process has two identification, right? This identification we called as the port numbers. This will work with one port number, this will work with another port number, another port number, another port number. Suppose if I want to find out the HTTP web application, the port number is 80 by default. So HTTPS means what is the port number we are using? 443 we are using, right? So if you not specifying, then you cannot able to connect with the server. But you can ask me, so if I am writing the cisco.com something like this, I can happily get the website result, right? Now see that. So if I am typing www.cisco.com also, I am getting the result, right? Just I am enabling the Cisco site, right? Now see that here what I am going to do. So along with this, I am going to enter the port number, right? So now same thing, extra thing what we are going to do is we are going to add the port number. So now if we are adding the port number, what is happening? Cisco, right? So here also we are getting the web application, here also we are getting the web application. Now if you understand this one, if you are entering or if you are not entering, by default port for the HTTPS application is the 443. See, if I am entering 443 also, I am getting the same website. For example, if you don't still understand, instead of 443, I am going to give 123. Now what is happening? Are we getting the site? No, this site can't be reached. It means that we require three things. One is called as the protocol. Second one is called as the IP address or domain name. Third one is called as the port address. This process address will be assigned by what? Transport layer, right? So it will assign the two kind of address. One is called as the source port number of the source machine, destination port number of the destination machine. In this case, we are going to connect the destination by using the protocol HTTPS. What is the port number we need to use? 443 by default, right? For if you are using the HTTP then the default port number is the 80. So like that, how many ports we will be having? The means we have the 16-bit ports. It means that we have the 2 power 16 possibilities. It means that 65,535 ports. It means that maximum in each system or each server or each computer you can run the 65,535 ports. Each port will be assigned to the one particular process. If you want to access the particular process, then we need to enter the port number. By default, that port number is mandatory. One point to be clearly understand here is that if you want to communicate from the source machine to the destination machine, the use of IP address to only for identification where the particular destination device is located. But if you want to access the particular application in this computer, you cannot able to access. So for that, what is the requirement? We need to assign something called as the port address. Who will give this port address? This will be given by the transport layer. This is the very important point to be remember. So the main function of the transport layer is to add the port address for the source machine as well as the destination machine. So along with this, it is going to perform the some other operations also. The first one is something called as the flow control operation. Another one is called as the error control operation, right? At the sender side, the transport layer receives the formatted data from the upper layers. Then it will perform the segmentation. For each segment, it is going to add the port number of the source machine as well as the destination, and also it is going to implement something called as the flow control and error control mechanism to ensure proper data transmission at the transmitter to the receiver side, right? So what is the meaning of flow control? Means it determines an optimal speed of the transmission to ensure that sender with a fast connection does not overwhelm a receiver with the slow connection. So what is the meaning of this one is, if you don't understand, right? So here we have the sender mission, here we have the receiver mission. Suppose for example, let us say this is some person A, this is person B. The person B's capacity is that at a time he can able to take the 2 biryanis, right? So how many biryanis he can able to take at a time? 2 biryanis. Now where we need to send the information or biryanis? From the transmitter to the receiver, right? Now if we are sending the 2 biryanis, biryani packet 1, biryani packet 2, so that he can able to accept easily, because his capacity is that accepting of 2 biryani at particular amount of the time period. Now for example, instead of sending the 2 biryanis, now what I am going to do is, the capacity of this person is 2, but at a time we are going to send the 1, 2, 3, 4 biryanis. Now what will be happen? He only takes the 2, then remaining 2 will be thrown out. It means that he is not going to accept this information in the receiver. So if we not going to accept this received information, then again what we have to do means, again we need to send the same biryani 3 as well as the biryani 4. It means that now first thing is that flow control mechanism, what it will tell is, based on the receiver capacity, it is going to send the number of segments or number of data, right? So flow control means it identify the what is the capacity of the receiver mission. So based on that, it is going to send the information from the transmitter to the receiver. This flow control mechanism can be done by what? Transport layer operation. Now one more is that we are going to perform the error control operation also. See, for example, how you can able to know that this guy, you for example, if 2 packets he can able to receive. Now the moment if you are sending the 3rd packet, 4th packet, or 3rd biryani or 4th biryani, he is not going to accept, right? Now see that we don't know whether this 3rd, 4th packet is sent or not. If does not send, again we can go for the sending the same biryani or packet one more time. But thing is that the transmitter has to know whether the information received by the receiver or not. It means that somehow it need to get the acknowledgement from the receiver to the transmitter, right? So now what we have to do exactly here is that we need to perform the error control operation. Error control means if something receiver is not received, then it will ask for the retransmission. If there is some error in the received information, then it will ask for the retransmission. If there is no error in the transmission, then it will accept the particular packet. So that is what we called as the error control operation, right? So what is the main duty of the transport layer? Assigning of what? Port number, source port number as well as the destination. So this communication we called as the process to process. Why it is called as the process to process communication means, we are going to connect with one particular process with the another process, something like Gmail to Gmail, something, one process with the another process. So for that we required what? Port number. So other duty of the transport layer is that it is going to perform the flow control operation as well as the error control operation. So once transport layer operation is completed, what is the next layer? Network layer. See that. So up to these three layers, it is going to prepare the data. At the transport layer, it is going to add the source port number, destination port number for the each and every segments. Once it is done, the moment it is going to send the information at the network layer, the network layer also will going to add the extra information. That is what we called as the layer 3 header. That extra information we called as the layer 3 header in case of the network layer. Now what is the functionality of duty of the network layer is that, so right, so for example, this is the sender mission, this is my receiver mission. So if you want to send the information from here to here, what is the first point is required? We need to locate where this destination device is located, right? Then how to find out where this device is located? It may be in Hyderabad, it may be in Chennai, it may be in Mumbai, or it may be in some other country also. The first thing is that we need to identify the destination mission, right? So for that, what we required is some unique identification mechanism is required, right? In the world, we use the unique identification mechanism is called as the IP addressing, right? So what is the use of IP address means we can able to detect the device from the one system to the another system, right? Now who will assign this IP address means the IP address will be assigned by the network layer, right? So if you don't understand, we will take some practical scenario so that we will be understanding. In third unit again we are going to discuss the network layer, what type of IP address we have, what is the classification, what is the meaning of subnetting, supernetting, variable length subnet masking, fixed length subnet masking, everything we will see, right? So at this point of time you have to remember is that if you want to identification of the destination mission, we require unique identification mechanism, that is what we called as the IP addressing mechanism, right? So we will see some practical cases, then you will understand why IP address is required. So for understanding the IP address mechanism, so just I am going to take this small practical scenario. So see that here I have the two end devices. Now my requirement is that I want to communicate from this device to this device, right? So if you are trying to communicate, so just I'm going to take the packet, right? Simple PDU. We will later on see that what is the meaning of PDU. Let it be this is my source mission, this is my destination mission. Now see that what it is telling, PC1 has no functional port. What is the meaning of this one is, right? If you want to identify this device in the network, we require something called as the unique identification mechanism, right? That unique identification mechanism we called as the IP address, right? So the moment if I click on PC0, I don't have IP configuration, I don't have any IP address. It means that we cannot able to remember. So for example, I am giving some IP address 168.1.1. If someone come with this IP address, he can able to access this mission. That is the meaning of this one, right? So what is the IP address of this mission? Something 192.168.1.1. Later on we will see what is the meaning of class C, class B, networking, everything, right? Now here also we required unique identification mechanism, right? So now if we see that, what is that 192.168.1.1 is already used, right? It is used here, right? Now the same address if I am going to use here, nothing but this mission, right? If I am going to use here, now we'll see what will be happen. Now see that this address is already used in the network. It means that each device will be identify the unique address. The once used address if you are entering again here, then it is not possible. Now what we have to do is we need to again give the one more unique IP address, right? Now if you want to communicate from here to here, right? So just if you want to take the PDU, some packet information, and if you are sending the information, right? So we can able to send the information. See that. So let me take the packet. This is the source, this is destination. See that packet is going to nowhere. It is going to the switch. From switch to it is going to the destination device. The destination device will accept the packet and it will send the acknowledgement back to the transmitter machine. If we don't send the acknowledgement back, then we don't know whether the received information is correct or not. See that it is successful, right? So this could be possible only with the help of the unique identification number, right? That is what we called as the IP address mechanism, right? So who will give the IP address? The IP address will be assigned by the network layer. Now we'll see that what is the functions of the network layer. The main duty of the network layer is assigning the logical addressing. Logical addressing means it is going to assign the unique IP address to identification of the particular device in the network, right? Then one more thing, we have something called as the routing, right? The one more duty of the network layer is that it is going to perform something called as the routing. So what is the meaning of routing means, right? So if you read this one, the network layer protocol determines which route is suitable from the source to destination. What is the meaning of this one if you don't understand? So these are the routers, nothing but the layer 3 device which works based on the IP address mechanism. As we discussed in the previous initial classes, so this is layer 2 devices, it works based on the MAC address mechanism. Now which layer we are discussing? We are discussing with the network layer. Now suppose for example I want to send the information from the this PC to this PC. Let it be this PC to this PC. Now what is the possible way? First it will go to the your local area network. If that, it will check for whether the destination is here or here. If not present, then what will be go means it will go to the router. So now here we have the different possibilities, right? So to go here, either it can go via this path, or it can go via this path, or it can go via some other path. Now see that which is the shortest path, this path or this path is shortest path. This is the path 1, this is the path 2, right? Which is the shortest path to reach to this destination device? The shortest path is this one. Now who will find the, right? Who will find the shortest path, right? So out of this multiple destination sources we have, now we need to identify the which is the shortest path from the source mission to the destination mission. So again this operation will be performed by whom? Network layer. So the major functionality of the network layer is that it is going to performing the assigning of the logical IP addressing. Then second one is the routing. Routing means it is going to find out the best path from the transmitter session to the receiver session, right? Now what is this communication we call? Host to host communication, right? So host to host communication, another way we can call it as the system or PC to PC communication, right? It means that if you want to identify one device in the world to the another device, we require unique mechanism that is called as the IP address. What is the use of IP address? Which is used to identify the where your system or host mission is located. That is why it is called as the host to host communication. So what is the meaning of process to process communication? One particular process in the computer to the another particular process in the computer. This is what we called as the process to process communication, which can be done by what? Assigning of the port number. This can be performed by the transport layer as we discussed in the previous slide. So the next layer in the OSI model is the data link layer, right? So what is the, as we discussed, we have the for identification one PC to the another PC, we have the two identification. One is used by the IP addressing mechanism. This can be done by using of what? Network layer, right? So for identification we have one more thing, that is what we called as the MAC address mechanism or physical address mechanism. It means that, try to remember, if you want to find out where is your destination device is located, there is two unique mechanism. One is by assigning the IP address to the each and every device in the network, or one more is by using of the MAC address or physical address. This is also used for the identification purpose. Now question is that why we require two different mechanism in order to identify the where our source mission as well as the destination mission is located, right? So one major point you have to remember is within local area. Within local area means, right, within the same network, local area or same network. If you are going to communicate within the same network or local area network, then we used something called as the MAC addressing mechanism. In which case we are using the IP address means if you are going to communicate the one different network to the another different network, at this case we are going to use this unique IP address mechanism. If you are communication in terms of the local area network, we are going to use the identification purpose MAC address or physical address. If you want to communicate with one different network to the another different network, then we are going to use the IP address mechanism. If you don't understand, suppose let it be this is my home, right? So let it be me here, then my father, then my mother, my sister or my brother is here. Now if you want to communicate from this one to this one or this one to this one, so we have the local language. That local language we used to communicate is the Telugu, right? So here we can consider Telugu is my MAC address or physical address. If I want to communicate among from one person to the another person, I can use the MAC address mechanism or Telugu language. Now see that this is where I am located at the Hyderabad. Now thing is that I want to, there is some other home at the US, right? So here also there is person A, person B, person C, some person D. These people, their mother tongue is something English, right? So if they want to communicate themselves, they can use the MAC address mechanism. This is for them, it is local. For me, it is local. So if I want to communicate locally, I can use the MAC address. So this guy also use the MAC address. Now here the problem is that somehow I want to communicate with this guy, myself with the some other guy in the US. Then this is called as the different home, different home. In technical term, we call as the different network to the different network. Now means if you want to connect the two different, right, so two different homes or two different networks, then this MAC address will not be sufficient. Within the area, within the home only, MAC address will be sufficient. But if you want to communicate with the two different homes or two different network, we require something called as the IP address. One important point to be remembered is, if you are communicating within local area network, then MAC address is sufficient, right? But if you are communicating with the two different network, then what we required? We required the IP addressing mechanism. Suppose see that if you have something like this. This is my college where we have the EC department, CSE department and mechanical departments. All are connected one to another. So this means that we are going to communicate locally. So this is we called as the local area network, right? So for example, if you consider some example, this is Hyderabad location, this is Chennai location, this is Mumbai location. So if I want to communicate from here to here, I can use the MAC address on the layer 2 device. If I want to communicate from here to here, I can use the MAC address to communicate. If I want to communicate any one of these devices, I can use the MAC address. But the question is that this is Hyderabad, Chennai, Mumbai. But if I want to communicate from Hyderabad to Mumbai, then both are the different network. In that case, the MAC address alone is not sufficient. Now we require something called as the IP addressing mechanism, right? Now who will assign the MAC address means IP address will be assigned by the network layer, right? Now who will assign the MAC address means the MAC address will be assigned by the which layer? Data link layer, right? The main important point of the MAC address is that our physical address which is going to assign by the data link layer, right? Now what is the duties of the data link layer? So it is again, it is going to perform the error control as well as the flow control operation. The same thing which we discussed in the transport layer. Now if you might be asking why we require two error control, two flow control operation means if you are going to communicate only within the network, then data link layer will perform the error control and flow control operation. But if you want to send the information from the one different network to the another different network, so then in this case the transport layer will perform the flow control as well as the error control operation. So that is the reason we have the two flow control, two error control. Locally will be performed by the data link layer, and different networks it is going to perform the transport layer operation, right? That point you have to remember, right? So flow control, error control will be performed by what? Data link layer. Now what is the meaning of one more operation of this one is access control. So what is the meaning of access control means when a single communication channel is shared by the multiple devices, the data link layer helps to determine which device has control over the channel at given point of the time period. So what is the meaning of this one is, suppose for example here we have the communication link something. So this will be some device will be connected 1 2 3 4 5 something device is connected. Now if you want to send the information from this machine to this machine, then remaining should not be able to send the information. Now who is having the control over the network? This guy will be having the control over the network. It means that at the given particular time period, the control or access will be given to this guy, so that this guy will happily send the information to either this one or this one, this one, this one. But if this guy try to send, he cannot do that. Now once after particular time period is completed, if this guy want to send, if this guy have the permission, he can able to send the information. It means that if the communication is shared by the multiple devices over the single channel or communication channel, then it means that who has the control over the channel? at given period of the time period, right? So this is what we called as the access control mechanism. Now what do you mean by framing, right? So what is the meaning of framing means, so first where the data is going to be prepared, where in which layer, application layer, presentation layer, session layer, the data is going to be prepared. So here we are going to add the extra information, right? Then one more data is going to be divided into the multiple parts, right? So the multiple parts can be divided, we called as the segments will be performed in which layer? So it is going to perform in the transport layer. Now whatever the data coming from the transport layer, next we have the network layer. Here also it is going to divide into the data into the multiple parts. That is what we called as the packets. At the data link layer, again we have the subdivision we called as the frames, right? The name for given is that the segment is in the transport layer, so we call the that information, subdivision of the information we called as the packet in the network layer. In case of data link layer, we are calling as the frames. The entire thing we are going to refer as the PDUR, protocol data unit. But if you observe here, you can understand. So if I place my cursor here, so this is what we called as the simple protocol data unit. So it is consist of what? Data, then each header will be added at the each layer. It means that adding extra information we called as the encapsulation operation. So these all things will be performed at the transmitter side. At receiver side, what will be happen means, finally we need to get only data, right? So these are all the extra mechanism in order to send the information as per rules and regulation properly. The moment when it is reaches to the right, so data link layer at the receiver, the same information will be here. But when it is going to the network layer, this data link layer information is not required, right? This will be removed. So here it means that we will be having the only data part, then L4 part as well as L3. So this is at the network layer. After reaching to the information at to the transport layer, we have data L4, we don't require the L3, right? Here we don't require the L3, right? So after going to the data in terms of the transport layer, right? So maybe it reaches to the application layer. Now L4 is also not required. Then finally only data will be exchanged between from the one application to the another application. It means that here it is going to perform the encapsulation operation, here it is going to perform the decapsulation operation. So finally you are getting the data from one application to the another application. So internally if you want to send the data in proper manner, these many mechanisms we need to perform, right? So what is the final layer in the OSI model? The final layer in the OSI model is physical layer. So what is the duty of the physical layer means, it is going to perform or it is going to explain what kind of network topology we are using. We have different network topologies. Network topologies means how we have connected the one computer with the another computer. It may be using bus architecture, star, ring, mesh, hybrid topology. So this will explain the what type of topology we are using. Then what type of transmission mode we are using. As we discussed in the previous classes, we have seen what is the difference between simplex, half duplex and full duplex communication, right? This also going to define by the your physical layer only, right? The one more is the bit rate control, right? So it also define the transmission rate. It means that the number of bits sent per second will be decided by the physical layer. It is nothing but you can simple way you can remember in terms of the physical connection between the devices, something like this. This is the operation of the physical layer. Right? So if you are going to perform all these kind of operation individual tasks or independent task from one to another, then only the process, the final data will be transferred from the one particular application to the another particular application. So this is what the brief discussion about the OSI model. Thank you guys.